A year what, Choppy? How many years we've been doing this?
13.
Is it 13?
Yeah. This is our 14th year, but it's been 13 and a half years.
13 and a half years, Jerry. Good morning and welcome back.
Well, good morning. I agree. It seems like yesterday we began, and Shan RJ, you and Bobby, we're excited to be playing those Saints this weekend. It's a big win for us Sunday.
Jerry, let's talk about the win. We were expecting kind of a boring slugfest, low scoring. It was boring because y'all made the second half boring because of the dominance. Just talk about your overall thoughts on a super impressive debut in Cleveland.
Well, I couldn't be more pleased with going to Cleveland and winning. It's important that we reiterate Cleveland is really an outstanding team, and they've really, on paper, they will line up with anybody you can play. And certainly they're formidable over on their defensive side of the ball. They're formidable at home. And so to go up there on opening day and come out of there with a win with several of the question marks, because we did it with a lot of young people involved in key areas of the game. And I think that bodes well as we look ahead, getting ready for New Orleans.
Jerry, what jumped out to you about the defensive performance? Obviously, Zimmer's debut, we were all excited about you picking him up to replace Quinn. And then, Micah Parsons just seemed like he wrecked everything out there. They're changing tackles. They're throwing screens on third down. They're running the football on third down. Can you just talk about
for what he did out there? You had Phillips, you had, of course, Neville that we've got real promise for this year. And I think all of those guys are important for us to recognize because we sure didn't give them much running room.
Jerry, it seemed on TV that the speed of the defense as a whole just popped. Did it look like the same way in person in that stadium?
Frankie, yes, very much. I think the key one that we all remember the most was the one where we were 13, came up strong when that quarterback got outside, and 13 just almost closed the gap as though he had no leverage on the edge. And I think that shows what Obashan is capable of being and representing for the defense. We've got some guys that can run out there, and we've got some guys that can play. Again, I want to emphasize our young players, and we've got at least two, possibly three, that were there last year that because of injury or just didn't get enough reps. That we should, if we had to do over again, we had at least two players that we could have had a lot more reps last year and felt better this year when we were counting on them in training camp. But no, our young players really played well on defense, and that was the big difference.
Jerry Jones here with Shan and RJ 105 through the fan. Jerry, you guys have obviously emphasized youth and draft and development a ton this offseason. Is this the most that you can remember having to count on and rely on that youth going into a year? And is that because of the salary cap, some of the higher price contracts that you guys are having to pay your stars?
Well, let's give candidly, it's the best way to go. Draft your players and get them out there as quickly as you can. If you draft them, play them. And now that's the best way to go. Easy to say, harder to do, because that veteran does have the edge when it comes to knowledge of the game, knowledge of playing in the NFL. But if you can do as well as we've done the last 2 years with our young players, then you can have available some dollars that will allow us to do the contract that we did, of course, with Dak and the one we did with Lamb. And that's the only way to play the game because if you're going to have players that are important to you, and make no mistake about it, Dak, Lamb, they're critical to our future success, then you're going to have to do it with young football players.
Jerry, let's talk about a few more of the young guys. What did you think about the debuts for Carson out there corner? And then a lot of spotlight on BB and Guyton on the O-line?
I couldn't have drawn it up better for Carson. He just looked like he's been out there for years. And, boy, he really played well. When you consider everything, he was as good as anybody I've seen on for a first game in the NFL. And, of course, when you look at guys that are feeling good about what they're doing, and confidence is one of the biggest things with young players. And I saw confidence. I give Mike Zimmer credit for exuding the kind of confidence and putting schemes in that guys can go all out on. And that'll exhibit itself when you see young players come out there and play. Now, I don't know when I've heard or seen young offensive linemen, and we certainly will point to two of them as our starters. But I don't know when I've seen young offensive linemen play a better game against that type of competition. And you could never duplicate what that experience of those plays, those 60-something snaps that those guys got in that game. There's no way to buy that when it comes to experience for us this year, using the experience this year and in the future.
Jerry Jones joined us here at 105 through the Fan. Zeke, 4 yards a carry. Definitely an improvement over the last 2 years where he was in the threes. Did he even exceed your expectations in week one so far?
Yeah, absolutely he did, because the one you haven't mentioned, and that is his pass protection. One of the reasons that Dak was able to be as effective as he were, especially in that first half, was Zeke's protection. It was outstanding. And, I mean, it was meaningful. He needed to make those blocks. Like I'm saying, those guys were formidable coming on that front for Cleveland. And Zeke did an amazing job. He graded out in that area as well as anybody we've ever had.
Jerry, you guys split the workload and the snaps roughly 50-50 between Zeke and Rico Dowdle. Is that kind of the ideal spot for you moving forward? Do you think just them kind of having an even split?
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Either are capable of playing more, let's put it like that. And but I don't know that has design to it, because it has, first of all, to the numbers of plays. But I want to emphasize the value of the work that's going on and the reps that are going on with that pass protection for Dak. And that'll show up in some of those big plays in the passing game too. But no, I think anybody will tell you that there are some pretty effective running backs that will run with the ball and be pretty effective doing it. And that's not to diminish that skill at all. But the nut cutting comes when you step up there and ask, how about the pass protection? Because you got to have it today. If you're going to get your guys out in the routes, your receivers, tight ends, or receivers, or backs out of the backfield, then, boy, you better have you some protection from one of those backs that you're keeping in.
Jerry, how did things end up working out for CeeDee Lamb in terms of the conditioning and the rust after not having training camp?
Well, I don't see it. Any conditioning issues or any rust at all. Didn't anticipate it because they'd done a lot of work together before we got to training camp. And everybody that knows Lamb knows he's going to have himself ready. And so, again, I don't think we missed a lick.
Jerry, how much were you kind of secretly cheering excitedly to see Brandon Aubrey kick that 71-yard field goal before halftime?
I just couldn't believe, still haven't got it straight in my mind. I've had not only two direct explanations, but also read several versions of it. But I don't know how we managed to not count the field goal that he got, and I would have loved to have seen the 71-yarder. But boy, he's a weapon, and I love the fact that we've got the confidence in him. He's got the confidence in himself.
Jerry Jones brought to you by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas every Tuesday, 8:30 here on your home of the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry, super impressive win, dominant. Our only nitpick was the second half offense seemed to bog down. We were looking for that foot on the throat, maybe score. Well, what do you attribute that to?
I don't think we, on the early part of our possession, I don't think we were able to get anything going with, let's say, the initial attempt to run the ball there early. But believe you me, that's just what the doctor ordered for Mike. He was licking his chops because it gives him a lot to work on with the wind of a great win like we got up there. So believe it or not, it's a good day for a coach when he's got a lot to work on, but he knows he can improve on it. But we can do better than that. We've got to, in the early part of the down, we've got to have some more yards than we were getting there early, principally in the running game. I think we had 6 attempts there, maybe 6 total attempts there for most of the second half. So that thing went the other way on us in the second half. Gives us a lot to dwell on with the excitement of a win behind us. We'll be a better team for that.
Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones joining us here on 105 to the Fan. Jerry, it seems like you guys dodged a little bit of a bullet with the Jake Ferguson knee injury. Are you optimistic he may not even miss some time, or what's the outlook there?
I am. You got to know him, and I think technically that we really did a proverbial dodge a bullet, but still, he's very excited about playing. I saw him right after our meetings yesterday, and he was excited about it. Like everybody, I know he was worried sick when it initially happened. His grandfather's Barry Alvarez. Do any of you guys remember what a great coach he was?
Absolutely.
One of the legendary coaches in this country. Well, that's his grandfather. And I know he died 1,000 deaths when he saw him on the ground there wherever he was watching it from. But, boy, I think so much of him for what he can add to this team this year that it would have been a blow, and we're relieved about it. I asked him last year, as one of my favorite stories, I just kind of was acknowledging him and walked by him in the dressing room before his initial time on the field for the Cowboys. And I said, "How you feeling?" He didn't blink. He goes, "Dangerous." Just kind of gave me that look, dangerous. Well, every time I see him, I think dangerous.
Jerry, you mentioned Kalen Carson earlier, and he was obviously stepping in with Deron Bland still out with that injury. A couple weeks removed from that, any change in the timeline for you guys with Deron Bland? And do you have a game in your mind where you're kind of circling and saying, I want him to be back by here?
No, that's too specific. You can't do that. You've got to see how it goes. It could come, those things are just totally up to how that rehab is going. And but the best thing that happened to us was, of course, this young guy coming in here and really playing well opening game, and the kind of camp he's been having too. So that's good, but we'll have that Bland back in there. We'll have him back just right, in my view. But I wouldn't dare try to pick up a game that you want him back, and that'll depend upon how well Carson's playing well as well.
Jerry, we got to ask you about Dak. You came to the contract agreement at essentially the 11th hour right before the season starts. Why now? Why now versus 6 months ago or 6 months from now?
Well, first of all, the definition of 11th hour is as to what. And frankly, I've never graded or been a part of a grade or been a part of a success or failure based upon what time it was, day, month, on the extension of a contract. What I think we all got to look at is, are they on the field or not? And the rest of it is almost paperwork, if you will. And so obviously we have wanted Dak Prescott to be the future quarterback of the Cowboys. We basically said that in 100 different ways over the past year. There's a lot goes into when you say that, at the kinds of numbers that you have when you got a guy that's playing that position as accomplished as Dak is. So, boy, were we glad to get that done. I think the best thing I can say about the timing is, in general, when you have a significant decision or you have a significant event in your life, when it gets in the crosshairs where the parties are in agreement, they're on the same step, they're in the same room, and you see that time to do that, if your goal is to get a deal done, nail it right there. Do not fool around. And it started happening for us. We started looking at the first game and a little conversation that Dak picked up on it. And we said, wouldn't that be nice if we could have this thing done by kickoff? I've seen things that had a time be close enough to talk like that and act like that, miss that particular emotion when everybody's leaning in, and all of a sudden never get done. I've seen that happen so many times. So when you're negotiating or when you're basically trying to make a deal, when you see that other party, and that's what you want is a deal, and they do too, usually, get it right there, grab it. That's what we did.
Jerry, if you could help us understand the philosophy of waiting, because we look at it, if the contract was signed a year ago, you might have been able to get him for less money, $5, $6, $10 million a year less versus waiting, because markets change, other quarterbacks get money. Explain the philosophy behind waiting as long as you guys did.
Oh, well, I think, first of all, what if you're not right? What if you're not right? What if you're wrong? You shouldn't have extended it. Then have you ever thought that in any case, I'm not talking about Dak's contract at all, but in any case, secondly, it's a real misnomer to think that you had a meeting of the minds at this level that we ended up. Once it's done, you said, why couldn't you all have gotten that done yesterday? That's easy, just paying the most money ever. Well, you have no idea where you were close to a meeting of the minds. Dak, of course, had the ability to play this out this year and be free in a market that could really reward that very much. And the assumption you're making when you say late in the game on any of these players, have we ever signed the players early and then sorry that we signed them? You guys get your memory cap out. We have, haven't we? Okay? Signed them 2 years too early, a year too early. Didn't see enough. So it does happen. And you're dealing with such an inexact. It can be, it's comparable to some types of competition don't have a tangible thing. It's more like a beauty contest than it is a final score. Well, you never know for sure if you were right or wrong. You just can look at an ultimate result. Now, sometimes it's so clear as to where you are that then you should go ahead and make that decision. Every time in my life that I have known and could do it, that I wanted to do it, I would go do it. And I broke glass trying to get there. Every time I have ever done it. Have I ever not done a lot of them? Yes, because the other people didn't want to do it.
Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones join us here on 105 through the Fan. Jerry, is a Super Bowl a necessity for you to consider the Dak extension a success?
Go over that question again.
Is a Super Bowl a necessity for you to consider the Dak extension a success over the life of the contract?
Well, that's a hypothetical. I'm going to call it a hypothetical because I'm not going to give you a straight answer. And that's probably a pretty good question. But I think that when I look at what Dak is, he's a leader. He plays the position of ultimate leadership in sports, in my opinion, as the quarterback. You can put a huge value on measures of success that don't reach a Super Bowl. I will say this, that any time that we've ever made players the highest paid player, key players such as Troy Aikman, the most highest paid player in the game, we won Super Bowls.
Jerry Jones, D&M Leasing Hotline here on 105.3 The Fan. Jerry, I know you touched on this with Stephen A. Smith, but the quarterback of the Cowboys is so polarizing. What do you say to the fan, and you kind of touched on it in one of your press conferences, who say, we haven't even been that close to the NFC Championship in 8 years with the quarterback. Why would it be different now and giving him all that money?
Oh, I think you've got to make the assumption that after years of experience, in this case with Dak, that you just don't think they're capable of getting there. And the question is, well, what makes you think is capable? Well, I can tell you right now that the leadership and the experience of the times that you've seen him make the plays, the times that you've seen him make the adjustments, the times that you've, the countless times that you've seen it. Once you've seen it happen, then you can count that you can see it again. That's fair. It's not necessarily going to happen, but you can see it again. He's done the kinds of things in games and in seasons that would allow him to quarterback the Dallas Cowboys to a Super Bowl. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Last one for you, Jerry, here. Micah next. You guys open, ready for business?
Exactly. Excuse me?
Is Micah next? Is he next up now?
Oh, listen, I really didn't do that deliberately, but obviously he had a great game out there Sunday, and he's an integral part of our team's future, so we'll see where we go.
Hey, Jerry, I just have a general question for you real quick. I've always wondered this. It happens in the NBA all the time. We all go through negotiations, and sometimes, we get our feelings hurt, whether it's, Zeke or Lamb or Dak. Do you ever worry that someone is just going to say, I want out? Here's my trade demand. I want out of here. Do you or do you never worry about that? And why do you think we really haven't had it happen with a superstar around here when the negotiations may not go their way initially?
Well, I've never seen anybody get their feelings hurt enough that the money couldn't cure.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, I guess it's all cured up right now. Jerry, congratulations on the awesome opening week impressive win. Let's do it again versus the Saints. Great to have you back for another year, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.